Now it turns out that was a load of old baloney. You're not going to get rid of any of the debts, are you? Or you're going to try and deal with it in a mealy-mouthed way, which suggests you haven't really thought this through.
Susanna, you know that there wasn't a promise on that, and I've been clear. I understand student debt versus student fees, and many students do. I think it's disingenuous to say that students didn't understand that. They do understand that.
No, one of whom is my middle son. Decided to vote for Labour and for Jeremy Corbyn. He lectured me on missing the Corbyn surge, and when I pressed him, he said, he's going to take care of the students, Dad. He's going to get rid of all tuition fees, and he's going to pay off all the debts.
The portrait hung there on the Vietnamese government wall, Angela Rayner's face smiling back at her, paid for by the same taxpayers who would soon learn their disability benefits were being slashed on her watch. This isn't fiction, this is the reality of Labour's New Britain. In just 9 months, the party that promised to champion the vulnerable has created a perfect symbol of its betrayal, a self-congratulatory gift unveiled at the precise moment thousands of disabled Britons learned they'd been abandoned. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Have you ever wondered what goes through a politician's mind when they present a foreign dignitary with a portrait of themselves? It's a question many Britons are asking after Angela Rayner's recent diplomatic faux pas that has left the nation cringing in collective embarrassment.
We've put £69 billion, a real 6.8% cash terms increase into local authorities. In contrast, Madam Deputy Speaker, 23% cut in the last decade under the Conservatives.
And the unprecedented mass postponement of local elections for at least 1 year.
No, one of whom is my middle son. Decided to vote for Labour and for Jeremy Corbyn. He lectured me on missing the Corbyn surge, and when I pressed him, he said, he's going to take care of the students, Dad. He's going to get rid of all tuition fees, and he's going to pay off all the debts.
In what can only be described as a spectacular display of tone deafness, Labour's Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner presented Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister with a framed portrait of herself during an official visit. Let that sink in for a moment. Not a cultural artifact representing Britain's rich heritage, not a symbolic gift showcasing our nation's artistic achievements, but a picture of herself, paid for by the same taxpayers who are currently watching their public services crumble. The timing of this self-aggrandizing gesture couldn't possibly have been worse. Just 1 day earlier, Rayner sat alongside Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall as the government announced devastating cuts to disability benefits. These aren't minor adjustments, they're sweeping reductions that will directly impact thousands of Britain's most vulnerable citizens. The juxtaposition is jarring. 1 day, slashing support for disabled people, the next, handing out vanity portraits. Social media erupted with a mixture of disbelief and outrage as images of the portrait exchange circulated online. "Embarrassed to be British right now," wrote one user, while another questioned, "Is this what we're paying taxes for?"
And
when you say you're going to deal with something, are we now going to assume that I will deal with it means you won't deal with it?
When he talks about council debt, it's his government that has pushed councils to the brink.
Susanna, you know that there wasn't a promise on that, and I've been clear. I understand student debt versus student fees, and many students do. I think it's disingenuous to say that students didn't understand that. They do understand that.
The public's visceral reaction speaks volumes about how dramatically this gift violated both diplomatic protocol and basic political common sense. In the world of international relations, gift exchanges are deeply symbolic affairs. They typically involve items of cultural significance, perhaps a piece of local craftsmanship, a book about national history, or artwork representing shared values. Personal portraits rarely feature in diplomatic exchanges unless you're a monarch or head of state, and even then, it's considered rather old-fashioned. Rayner's choice reveals either a profound ignorance of diplomatic norms or, perhaps more troublingly, a belief that her personal image holds international significance. What's particularly baffling about this incident is Rayner's conspicuous silence in its aftermath. While public criticism mounted, neither she nor her office has offered any substantial explanation or defense of the portrait gift. This absence of justification has left a vacuum that's been filled with speculation about her judgment and priorities. The psychological implications are fascinating. What level of self-importance must one possess to believe that foreign officials would value a portrait of you? For a politician who has carefully cultivated an image as a champion of ordinary working people, this smacks of the very elitism she once claimed to fight against. The disconnect between Rayner's working-class credentials and this aristocratic gift-giving approach is impossible to ignore.
Well, Piers, we've never been mealy-mouthed about it. We said from day one that we would end tuition fees, that we would make our National Education Service free at the point of need.
And he talked about impact on local services. We are working with councils to inject the money and resources so that they can deliver for local people.
Now it turns out that was a load of old baloney. You're not going to get rid of any of the debts, are you? Or you're going to try and deal with it in a mealy-mouthed way, which suggests you haven't really thought this through.
Let's remember that this is the same Angela Rayner who rose from teenage single motherhood to the upper echelons of British politics, frequently citing her humble beginnings as evidence of her connection to everyday struggles. She built her reputation on being different from the political elite, more authentic, more grounded, more in touch with real people's concerns. Yet here she is, engaging in behavior that would make even the most entitled aristocrat blush. This incident doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a troubling pattern emerging from Labour's first 9 months in power. The party that campaigned as champions of the vulnerable and disadvantaged has rapidly morphed into something unrecognizable to many of its voters. The transformation from crusaders against inequality to politicians who cut benefits while distributing self-portraits represents a betrayal so fundamental it's difficult to comprehend. When Labour voters cast their ballots last year, did they envision a government that would slash disability benefits while its second-in-command hands out taxpayer-funded vanity gifts? Is this the change they were promised? For many, the answer is a resounding no. What makes this situation even more galling is the complete absence of self-awareness it demonstrates. At a time when millions of Britons are struggling with the cost of living crisis, when families are choosing between heating and eating, the tone-deaf extravagance of commissioning and distributing personal portraits is nothing short of staggering. What we're witnessing isn't just a single diplomatic faux pas, but a pattern that tells a deeper story about Labour's transformation. The polls confirm what many have suspected. Labour's support has risen a mere 2% since July, still lagging behind the Conservatives. This isn't surprising when voters witness such disconnects between promises and reality. The portrait episode perfectly captures why trust in Rayner's party continues to erode. Voters who place their faith in Labour's commitment to ordinary people now find themselves questioning whether they've been sold a false bill of goods. When a party that once championed the vulnerable spends taxpayer money on vanity projects while simultaneously cutting support systems, the message becomes painfully clear. The British public isn't fooled by carefully crafted personas anymore. As Rayner's self-image hangs on a foreign wall, the real portrait, one of betrayed principles and abandoned values, hangs in the public consciousness, stroke by stroke revealing Labour's true priorities.